Happy Friday, fantasy fanatics. It's the Friday edition of your daily source for fantasy hockey news, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, with no shortage of news to cover. We're taking a look at Jake Oettinger getting his bag and some struggles for Georgiev and Jarry, and we got these big-time bets ready to roll, baby. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The hockey world is buzzing, and that's why you are listening to the number one source for sports betting and fantasy news in the game, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele, wrote in on this side of the microphone. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. You know what we got to do. Give a shout out to the everydayers. Salute and much love for holding us down every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Honestly, Steele, considering I've made so many wagers on FanDuel, you know that offers out the door for your boy. But if you're not jumping on that, we don't get paid for these plugs, just like I just said. However, you got to be jumping all over it, just like we are on today's show with all of the top news from around the NHL. Jake Oettinger getting the bag. We'll start there. Steele, you brought this up to me off air the other day. Are these Colorado Avalanche pretenders more than contenders? Let's talk about it along with their goaltending and, of course, Tristan Jarry struggling right now, Steele. Nedeljkovic coming off IR. These are fantasy angles that need to be covered. And, of course, Friday's three-game board, only because there's three games, doesn't mean Steele and I are sleeping. Over to you, Mr. Roden. Jake Oettinger, you know how I feel about the Dallas Stars and Mr. Oettinger. How are you thinking, feeling, and seeing this situation unfolding in Dallas?
I mean, monster contract, and we've talked about this organization over the last couple of years, solidifying and making it realize that their top prospects or their top young guys in Rupe Hintz, in Jason Robertson, in Wyatt Johnson, they're going to be taken care of. And now Jake Oettinger gets taken care of with this monster contract, 8-year, $8.25 million. The first thing that came to mind was Jeremy Swayman, actually. Jeremy Swayman clearing the path, making sure that he took on the front, he was on the front lines for the goalie market this upcoming season, so Jake Oettinger could just kind of have a smooth sailing negotiation with his organization in the Dallas Stars. That was the first thing that came to mind for me. So the goalie market has been set. Both goaltenders, 25 years old, soon to be 26 at the end of the month. They solidify their long-term contracts with their respective clubs for the exact same price, for the exact same length, and annual average for their deal. So that was the first thing that came to mind, is they've set the goalie market for these young goaltenders right now. Number two, Jake Oettinger is putting himself, when we talk about keeper leagues, we talk about goaltenders, there's only a few goaltenders that you can really hold on to on a year-to-year basis. I mean, you usually want to keep a hold on some of your top-tier offensive and defensive players from in those keeper leagues. Besides Connor Hellebuck, besides Igor Shesterkin, now Jake Oettinger is putting his name in that conversation as a guy you want to keep on a year-to-year basis. He's in the top-tier category and top-tier level for goaltenders right now in the fantasy market. He's off to a stellar start for this season. 3 wins, 1 shutout, been absolutely incredible in those 3 games for the Dallas Stars. At .948 save percentage for the young stud. Absolutely killing it for the Dallas Stars, and they're off to a great start in that Central Division.
Have to come on here and just be honest sometimes, Steele, about our mistakes. And I don't know if you remember me talking to you about the juicy keeper league trade that I pulled off. And let's just be honest as well, that I did this after the Askarov trade, and I traded Jake Oettinger and Drake Batherson, 2 players that I'm so high on, but the return was Kevin Fiala, off to a hot start, 2 first-round picks, 30 free agent dollars, which we only have 100 of, and I also got Askarov. So you saying all of these things about Oettinger totally hold true, 100%. It's just making me feel especially with Askarov in
tough.
the AHL, that right now, that other GM, shout out to my hoop brethren, that he got the leg up right now. And that's okay. That's part of the fantasy game. I'm playing a bit of the long game here, 2 first-round picks. Anyway, I'm going to get to Oettinger right now. You mentioned it, 3-0, 1.63 goals against, 948 save percentage. Stars are 4-0. Also, Casey DeSmith in the cage Thursday night. We don't know the result of that. Posted back-to-back shutouts. We thought maybe the Smith for Wedgwood situation for Dallas was a slight downgrade. Right now, looking like Jim Nill once again, not only with the move for Casey DeSmith, but securing Oettinger long-term. This is a team now with the core basically locked in and a really, really good one at that. So, kudos to Jim Nill. I like to give the flowers to the GMs. You mentioned it, though. You hit it out of the park on every point, and I think I just want to honestly move on here because the contract is nice, but I'm just starting to feel a little hot under the collar here because I think I maybe made a mistake with moving on from Oettinger. Hit us in the comments. Know what you think. If you're okay, though, and I know you have some things to say about this Avalanche team, let's talk about it. The absences for me, Landeskog, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, Drouin's been out. Devin Taves has now been out. Miles Wood just got hurt. That's a situation that's obviously playing in here. But what are you seeing from the Colorado Avalanche? And do you think they're pretenders or are they contenders? Because that's the kind of the point here.
They're not a Stanley Cup playoff caliber team. They're not a Stanley Cup champion team right now. This is by far one of the worst starts. I mean, you go back to last year with the Edmonton Oilers. They're putting themselves in that area and category of teams that are just off to a worse start in the National Hockey League. I mean, they can't win a game right now. Alexander Georgiev can't stop a beach ball if his life depended on it. And they're struggling in the defensive zone. Sloppy plays, not working hard, not digging enough for those pucks. Offensively, their top-tier guys are still getting it. You've got Mikko Rantanen, who has 7 points in his first games. You have Nathan McKinnon, who's got 7 points. You've got Cale Makar, who's leading the team with 8 points. Some depth players from like Ross Colton and Casey Middlestat have stepped up with their offensive games as well, helping on the power play unit. But other than that, this is a very, very bad-looking offensive group. Besides that top line of Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, and Ross Colton or Miles Wood, whoever's playing with them on that left wing side right now. But you get into the depths of it. You get into the deeps. You've got Parker Kelly, Callum Ritchie, Nikolai Kovalenko, Matthew Steinberg, Joel Kiviranta. These guys in the bottom six, even sort of in that second line group as well right now. They're not getting it done. It's not a Stanley Cup caliber team that we've seen just from last year, 2 years ago. And that's a big reason why they're missing some top tier players. Gabriel Landeskog hasn't played in 2 seasons. Valeri Nichushkin continues down this path of hurting himself and hurting his teammates in the process. So they're losing a bunch of guys right now. Devin Taves just got injured as well. Their blue line is not looking as strong as it once was, which was honestly one of their best qualities every single season, was how tough that blue line was over the last couple of years. It's not looking great for Colorado. They might have to, if Alexander Georgiev keeps up this level of play, they might want to hit up the goalie market sooner rather than later.
And they already have, claiming Kaapo Kähkönen off waivers 6 days ago. That's not a good indication of how they're feeling about their goaltending. They also, I think they signed Kevin Mandalese, a depth guy from Ottawa. They signed him in the offseason. I think all options are on the table right now for a team, Steele. I wanted to bring this up. Shout out to friend of the show and senior writer at The Score, Josh Wegman, for putting together a really good piece on the Avalanche today on the Score app. Go check that out. The Avalanche are allowing goals at an alarming rate, 6.25 goals per contest, Steele. By far the worst mark in the league. The penalty kill operating at a 54% clip.
It's bad.
Combine those two, I don't care how many Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, and Nathan McKinnon trios you got. This is today's NHL, and you got to be complete back to front. So let me talk a little bit more about the Avalanche right around the break. Shout out to Casey Middlestat. I like that one. We'll talk about Jarry, Nedeljkovic, the Pens. I got a little shout out to Sidney Crosby and Gino coming in hot. I can't talk about the Pens, Steele, and not talk about 87. And Friday bets for the mini 3-game board. However, today's episode, my friends, is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's our new favorite app for making a little bit of loot. Do you want to lay some wagers? Justin Jefferson, more than 83 receiving yards. Patty Mahomes, less than 267 passing yards. Make sure you download PrizePicks today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL and get 50 bones instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Make sure you're checking out PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. And you know, again, this is a hot topic right now. We've been talking about goaltenders all week. We've been talking about the Colorado Avalanche, but it's a must. And this team, again, just off to a terrible start. I mean, they were supposed to be, I think most people had them as a top 3 team in the Central Division, a caliber or a playoff caliber team. And you couldn't pick and you couldn't imagine a worse start from this organization right now. And Alexander Georgiev is just, there's no confidence in the game. And, you know, I go back to Jack Campbell last year at the beginning of the season as well. Look how that turned out for him. You go back to, you know, again, just like Stuart Skinner at some points last year as well. I mean, I know I'm picking on these Western Conference teams, the Edmonton Oilers, but it's true. They're struggling in the net right now. Alexander Georgiev isn't the only one. I know we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins and Tristan and Jarry in a few seconds as well, but Alexander Georgiev to me is just, it might be time to start debating about potentially dropping him if this play continues.
Fantasy-wise, for sure. Now we're getting into, like, we got to see, you know what we do. We got to separate what it means for the team on the ice and what it means for fantasy GMs because, and, you know, you can hate on me if you want. I don't think this team is actually nearly as bad as how they're playing. And I know you're saying they're not cup caliber, not playoff caliber. Right now, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you. How could I? They've looked horrendous, and we just spit off all these stats that indicate as such. However, to me, they're still a playoff team. When you have Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, it actually, for me, for the most part, as long as everyone else can just be average, and right now they're well below average, if they play at that level, they're going to be in the postseason. So I think the book is, I'm not ready to drop Georgiev just yet, but man, my finger is on the pulse for it, Steele. It just really depends on what your other options are out there, what other options you have on your bench. Hit us in the comments. DMs are always open. Make sure you checked out our Instagram page, Twitter page, and of course, TikTok, YouTube. We got the shorts rolling. We got content coming out across all platforms. They need to pick it up, plain and simple. And like, I'm not trying to say Kakinen is the guy who's going to come in here in any stretch of the imagination, and I know Jared Bednar has been very loyal to Georgiev. They are going to need someone to make saves. So sooner than later, they're just going to turn to the first guy who's able to do that and string it together. Let's string this together. And it is kind of weird, though. And we've been mentioning goalies almost every single episode because from injuries to contracts to contract holdouts to poor performances to sensational ones, for some reason, this has already been the fantasy year of the goaltender. Shout out to Apples and Genos, the 0G. Let me know how you feel about that one, Steele. Tristan Jarry. Speaking of bad, speaking of doo-doo, how about 1-1-0, 5.47 goals against and an .836 save percentage? Now you got Nedeljkovic coming back, a backup goaltender that I'm not exactly high on, but has been proven at times to make some big saves. He's getting paid decently as well, Steele. This Pittsburgh Penguins team's window for winning is about to slam shut. What do you think about this? Because I truly think, also given that this young kid that they've had, I don't know where his name is here, Joel Blomqvist, he's looked pretty good too. At some point, they're going to yank it on Jarry and give it to one of these other guys just to run with it for now.
Yeah, and completely understandable. And I even tweeted that out last night, just hypothetical, a 1-for-1 trade, Alexander Georgiev for Tristan Jarry. Just give these two guys, these two guys a fresh start with a new scene, with a new organization. This has been a terrible start for Tristan Jarry and Alexander Georgiev and a few other goaltenders across the league. And like you said, with Alexander Nedeljkovic coming back soon from injury, you've got Joel Blomqvist playing very well. He was a second round pick back in the 2020 draft. He played really great last year for the Scranton Penguins, their AHL team. He was 25, 12, and 6 last year with a 921 save percentage. He's 2-1 in season. He's 2-1-0 on the season so far with the Pittsburgh Penguins up on that stage at this level of his professional career as well. So he's looked very solid. He's looked calm and confident handling the puck. No ridiculous rebounds given up in front of the crease. He's looked very solid so far. So maybe that is something the Pittsburgh Penguins want to, maybe be open-minded about with Tristan Jarry, because he's been pulled, I believe, in 2 out of the 3 starts he's had so far. Maybe even all 3 starts, because he's been that bad. Same goes for Alexander Georgiev, 2 goaltenders who just aren't cutting it right now. And I mean, for the most part, even with the Pittsburgh Penguins and how the way their roster is looking, this could still be a playoff bubble team. So if they're not getting it from Tristan Jarry, and you've got Alex Nedeljkovic coming back, you've got Blomqvist playing really great this year. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe a 1-for-1 Alexander Georgiev, Tristan Jarry could be beneficial for both clubs.
The Penguins have scored the most goals out of any team in the Eastern Conference, only tied with the Boston Bruins. Sid is here. Gino is here.
Yeah.
They smell this last opportunity, and this just goes to show you the quality of 2 of the best of this generation. And I'm not going to put Malkin into the conversation with Crosby, Steele, but 1,600 points for Sid the Kid, Captain Canada, my boy, number 87. That's the 5th fastest player in NHL history to ever do that. Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, those 2 are insane. The time it took those 2 players to get to 1,600 points, and I don't have that number up, is just mind-boggling in terms of games played. Sid's out here right now. He's playing great. The team itself is actually looking pretty good up front. I still think they'll be a bubble playoff team, but I think with those 2 guys playing and looking how they are, and I know it's a long season, and, we can revisit this in April, they'll be there. You can see that look in 87's eyes, and that's why I'm saying behind the bench, Sullivan, he's not going to hesitate to try and get the hottest hand in there at some point. Yeah, Jarry's earned that look. It's not going to last, Steele, and also I think it will kind of push the front office, Dubas, if they are lurking around and Sid and Gino are going like this, to not be hesitant about looking at that market. I know they're cap strapped and all that. However, we're not cash strapped because we're winning some bets right now. That was a fire segue, Steele. Why don't you take us to break? Let's come back with bets unless you have another take on these Penguins. 3-2-0 right now, Steele. The goals against, though, when you're looking at how many goals they're getting, they could probably be 5-0 if not for Jarry's poor performances. And that's just how good Sid and Gino have been.
Hey, that was a tough sweat game for myself. Pittsburgh Penguins and Buffalo Sabres. I was sweating that anytime Crosby goal until the very last second when he had that game-winning goal in overtime against the Sabres. Sid the Kid, Evgeny Malkin getting it done. 11 points for Malkin on the season. He's been absolutely incredible. League's the lead. Value pick for sure if you picked him up in your fantasy draft. And we're coming back after the break with big time bets. Flip has been killing it, the betting guru over there. And I'll hand it over to him after we come back from the break. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when buying tickets to your next big event. That's why we always use the Gametime app. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Gametime has a great new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks the filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And thank you so much once again for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hammer that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Like Flip said, make sure you're checking us out and following us on all of our socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, getting those YouTube shorts going. We appreciate all that love and support you show us on all of our socials. So thank you so much for all of that. we're going to show that love and return that love with some winning bets for Friday night, kicking off the weekend right. And I'm just going to slide it over to you, my friend, give you the mic to lead us off here, because what a start to the season for Big Flip Livingstone over there. Everyone give him a round of applause. He's been cashing in, and he's been cashing in for you guys out there if you're following his picks. So lead us off, my friend. You're killing it.
That is one of the most proper intros you've ever provided me, and we've been doing this for a little while now, so much love. It's 2 nights of games in for the boy, but I'm just trying to bring the simple angles, and I'm not trying to come on here and just throw you guys plus 900 parlays, plus 9,000. I look at it, and I've always looked at it like this. You decide what you want to wager, whether it's $5 or 500. Steele and I just want to highlight the angles in the games that we think are going to bang. And yeah, odds are odds and they matter, and your wager obviously matters, but this is a 30-minute show. And while I provide more cop-out, Steele, I have a same-game parlay that I'm really, really liking. And it's fitting because we just talked at length about this Colorado Avalanche team, and that's where I'm looking for the same game parlay.
Love it.
The Ducks had a big win against the Utah Yeti the other night, and yeah, I'm sticking to that plug, Steele. I'm not going anywhere on that. It's a Utah Yeti. 5-4. 5-4. Cash the over. Bang. Fun game to watch. Double bang. But Colorado is 8-1-1 against Anaheim, and what better way to bust out of this ugly streak? And you know what's going to happen. Makar took a lot of heat in the media himself, saying it's on him. The man has 8 points, and he's out here trying to shoulder the blame. This team's going to explode offensively at some point. I don't know about Georgiev. I don't know about the goaltending, but I know this. When that top line rolls, no one can stop them. No one in the NHL, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So, number 1 pick, Avs on the money line. I'm keeping it simple because it's a same-game parlay. I'm going to smash that along with the over 6.5. Because also 5 of the last 9 games between these two have gone over the number, and it's just making so much sense. Anaheim coming off a 5-goal performance, one in which also they allowed 4 goals. Colorado allowing goals at will, but also getting theirs. This is a dream over, Steele, so it's over 6.5 in my lock of the night. One of my favorites in the game aside from Sid, Cale Makar anytime assist. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think I'm in my bag right now, and I'm feeling all 3 of these once again. Cale Makar, anytime assist, lock. Avalanche on the money line at home to break out of it, really feeling it, and then hit me with the over 6.5, a big old stinker, 4-3, 5-3 final is what I see. That's the same game parlay and my lock of the night.
Absolutely love the picks. It makes me more confident with my same game parlay
Oh!
coming from this matchup as well. Colorado Avalanche, Anaheim Ducks. And I'm not juicing it up all the way to plus 900, but I am spicing the props and the parlay a little bit with these picks right here. First pick of the night, Avalanche on the puck line, minus 1.5 at plus 108. This team has they've hit the puck line minus 1.5, 7 out of the last 10 games against the Anaheim Ducks. So when they win by 2 or more goals. That's number 1. So I'm starting off with that at plus 108. Second, I'm with you on the over 6.5 at minus 122. Also, 7 of the last 10 games have been over the number so far this season. They're getting theirs on the offensive, and they're letting some on the defensive as well. So I'm loving the over 6.5 in this matchup. And my third and final pick, Rantanen, 2+ points in this matchup. He had a hat trick. He had a hat trick to start off the season in game 1. He had a 3-point night against the Boston Bruins in that 5-3 loss the other day. He's got 7 points in 4 games on the season so far. I'm loving the multi-point angle for Mikko Rantanen. Like you said, when that top line, those top guys get going, they're on every single action in the offensive zone. So I'm liking that. And that is my lock of the night, the Rantanen 2+ points in this matchup.
You did spice it up, Steele, and we didn't even plan that. Usually, sometimes you and I go, okay, I'm going to go here, you're going to go there, That wasn't even planned. That's what I call a good omen. Let's get this paper, Steele. I want to start off hot. We got Christmas bills to pay. It's coming up. We got Hanukkah. We got all kinds of birthdays. This isn't cheap. We got vet bills to cover.
Oh, we got vet bills.
Shout out to Loki one time. And shout out to you, brother. Another good episode. I couldn't do it without y'all. Let's keep it rolling, though, with these bets into next week. Waiver Wire Monday coming up.
big time bets starting off hot this weekend. Flip's absolutely killing it. So you make sure you follow the guru over there and make sure you're following the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod every single day, making it your first listen every single day throughout the week. Make sure for your second listen, though, you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link in the description below, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, enjoy your weekend. We wish you good luck with all your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again on Monday for Waiver Wire Monday.